do a roll call. We'll see if we have a quorum here. Shayna, are you?
I'm doing the roll call here if you're ready.
Great. Yep, let's go.
Okay. County of San Mateo.
Dave Pine.
Great. And County of San Mateo. Atherton.
Rick DeGolia.
Belmont.
Julia Mates.
Brisbane.
Colleen Mackin.
Burlingame. Okay. Colma. Daly City.
Rodas Magbual.
I'm sorry?
Rodas Magbual, present.
Oh, for Daly City. Great. Thank you.
Yes.
East Palo Alto. I know Carlos is going to be late. He sent us a note.
And
Foster City.
Donna will be late.
Sam Hindi.
Okay.
Sam Hindi here, Foster City.
Thank you. Half Moon Bay.
Harvey Ryback.
Thank you. Hillsborough. Los Banos.
Tom Faria.
Okay. Menlo Park.
Betsy Nash.
Thank you. Millbrae.
Ann Schneider.
Pacifica.
Tiger Jazz Big Stick.
Thank you. Portola Valley.
Jeff Alfs.
Redwood City.
Hey everyone, Giselle Hale.
Thank you. San Bruno.
Marty Medina.
Perfect. San Carlos.
Laura Palmer Lohan.
Okay. San Mateo.
Rick Bonilla.
South San Francisco.
James Coleman.
Okay. Thank you. Woodside.
John Carvel.
Director Emeritus. Director Emeritus. No, Director Emeritus. Okay. You definitely have a quorum.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shayna. So if there is any public comment prior to the meeting, we can take it right now. Does anyone have public comment? I haven't seen any. So I will assume there's...
Chair DeGolia, there's a hand up from Carol Steinfeld.
Oh, okay. Carol, please go ahead.
I didn't see public comment on your agenda, so I hadn't prepared notes, but very briefly, and I will email you, I would suggest that PCE look at adding water to its scope. San Mateo County is a little underrepresented or has issues with water sourcing. We're very dependent, of course, on Hetch Hetchy. There's some litigation that even a lot of people here don't know about against the state over maintaining sustainable flows for the health of the river. At the same time, I feel that with the dependence on Cal Water in some of the communities, we're not getting democratic input. And as someone who's worked in mostly the wastewater end, but also some water management and community-based behavior change, I don't feel that we have robust programs, at least as I've encountered them. So I will send a letter with, I'll email some points to consider. I actually think PCE might be the entity to take on part of this. Thank you. Oh, and let me add, I am the co-chair of the Water Committee of the Loma Prieta chapter of the Sierra Club. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Is there any other public comment? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, so let's move on. The next item would be to set the agenda and approve the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to that effect?
So
I make a
moved.
motion to set the agenda and approve consent.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. That's a motion by Rick Bonilla and a second by Colleen Macklin. Could we please have a roll call?
Sorry, I took myself back off mute.
No problem.
Hold on. Get back to Atherton.
Yes, but you probably want to do San Mateo County.
Sure. San Mateo County?
Yes.
County San Mateo. Okay. In County San Mateo. Atherton, yes. Belmont.
Yes.
Brisbane.
Yes, and I wasn't the second on the motion, by the way.
Oh,
Okay.
I think it might have been me, Rick. Laura.
oh, that was you, Laura. Okay, great. Thank you.
I play Colleen on TV though.
Thanks for the
Burlingame.
Colleen.
Yeah. Colma. Daly City.
Yes.
East Palo Alto. Foster City.
Yes.
Half Moon Bay.
Yes.
Hillsboro. Los Banos.
Yes.
Menlo Park.
Yes.
Millbrae.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Pacifica.
Yes.
Portola Valley.
Yes.
San Bruno.
Yes.
San Carlos.
Yes.
Apologies, Redwood City was skipped.
Redwood City. I said Redwood City, but I didn't hear an answer. So, but that's for Redwood City. Okay. San Mateo.
Yes.
Perfect. South San Francisco.
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
The motion passes.
thank you, Shayna.
Leslie.
The next item on the agenda is a report from the Citizens Advisory Committee.
No, it's Rick. It's the CEO report. It's your report.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. So Shane and I are both working on winging it here. Go for it, Jan.
Oh, Jan, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you tonight to Leslie. Leslie is filling in for Shayna tonight, who's sick. So Leslie usually does customer care, and tonight she is doing board care. So thank you, Leslie, and something to add to your resume, but no need to update the resume anyway. So a few things to update you on tonight. The first is Western Community Energy. So Western Community Energy is a CCA serving 6 municipalities in Riverside County, and they filed for bankruptcy on Monday, and they cited 3 major factors, 3 major factors contributing to this action. So they launched in April of 2020, not a great time to launch with COVID just starting and shelter in place. So the reasons for their filing for Chapter 9 bankruptcy: first, they were not adequately hedged with energy supplies during the August 2020 heat wave, and they incurred an additional $12 million in energy costs. Second was regulatory changes regarding resource adequacy resulted in shortages of RA and increased costs for RA. And third, they experienced delinquencies 10 times higher than pre-pandemic rates of delinquency. And they had just started out, so they did not have cash reserves to pull them through. They do not expect their customers to experience any service disruptions. And we are not aware of any other CCAs that are in financial distress or facing bankruptcy. And I wanted to let you know that you can be assured that Peninsula Clean Energy is in a strong financial position. Our unrestricted cash on hand is at 270 days, far in excess of our financial reserves policy of 180 days. We have a risk management policy that includes hedging 100% of our forecasted load for the current quarter. And we do procure some of our RA through long-term PPA contracts that enable us to lock in prices. Additionally, our allowance for bad debt is expected to be sufficient to cover non-payment of bills that we've experienced due to COVID. And I will be sending each of you a fact sheet that addresses these points in more detail. Okay, next slide, please. So staffing update. We have hired Jenica Uribe, who will be starting on June 1st as our community outreach specialist in Los Banos. So we will give a hearty welcome to Jennifer next month when we all meet her at the next board meeting. Next slide. So we still have 3 open positions, although we are interviewing and getting close on some of these positions. So we have still not yet filled the energy contracts manager, the community outreach specialist for San Mateo County, and the board clerk / executive assistant to the CEO / office manager position. So again, if you know great candidates for any of these positions, please send them our way. I also wanted to report on the e-bikes for everyone program that just was launched today, was formally launched today. And this is to provide an $800 incentive for the purchase of a new e-bike for income qualified residents. And this was designed as a 3-year program to provide incentives for 300 e-bikes. Well, today, 4 hours into the launch, we have already received over 100 applications. So it's a very popular program. It'll probably be sold out in 3 days rather than 3 years. And so we might be coming back to you later about this program, but we're very excited about the excitement from the community about this program. Okay, next slide, please. On to less exciting, well, maybe exciting, they're still exciting, but less positive information. So the working group 3 decision at the PUC, this is regarding the PCIA, came out at their May 20th meeting. And what the decision that was approved by the PUC had 5 main parts. The first was that it eliminates the cap and trigger mechanism for the PCIA, which will result in paying higher PCIA balances in the short run, but prevent competitive disadvantages in the future because there shouldn't be big balances that are accruing and need to be paid off. Secondly, it provides for a voluntary allocation of a slice of the hourly generation from the investor-owned utilities renewable portfolio standard portfolio. Third, something that we did not agree with is that it denies any allocation of the RA attributes. We thought those should be allocated because our customers are paying for those. Fourth, the decision provides for GHG-free allocations under PG&E's existing voluntary allocation, but only through 2023. So that is a disappointment. And then the 5th part is that it provides for PG&E to canvass the generators that it has PPAs with to see if they are interested in accepting a buyout or a buy down to remove those contracts from the PCIA. But it only requires them to do this in 2021, 2022. They can choose to run additional requests. Our hope was that they would view this on an annual basis. So we got a little bit of what we wanted. We did not get everything that we were hoping to get there. So a bit of a disappointment. Next slide, please. So going on with one other item related to the Public Utilities Commission. So we are submitting an advice letter to approve our solicitation materials for the DAC GT and the CSGT program. So the DAC GT, DAC stands for Disadvantaged Communities Green Tariff Program, allows us to install 1.2 megawatts of solar anywhere within the PG&E service territory and within an eligible disadvantaged community. So our solicitation will be to find someone to install that for us. And then the CS portion, which stands for Community Solar portion, allows us to, or we have been allocated 410 kilowatts of solar for this program, and that will be located, it needs to be located within 5 miles of a Peninsula Clean Energy DAC census tract, and there needs to be a qualifying project sponsor that goes along with this. And that a qualifying sponsor can be a nonprofit or a local government or a school. It can't be us because we are running the program. So we will be submitting that to the PUC by June 14th. Okay, next slide, please. On the legislative front, the Senate and Assembly Appropriations Committees met last week. The two appropriations committees are sometimes referred to as the gatekeepers for legislation. So in addition to evaluating the fiscal impact of bills, they are often the place where bills die for one reason or another. So the key piece of legislation for Cal CCA and for the CCA community this year is SB 612, which addresses the PCIA and those items that we did not get in this last decision. So we're happy to report that it made its SB 612 successfully got through the Senate Committee on Appropriations, and it is headed to the Senate floor, where it will be taken up sometime before June 4th. Our two senators, Senator Wiener and Senator Becker, are co-authors of this bill. We have reached out to Los Banos's Senator Caballero and her staff, and thank you, Director Faria, for helping us reach her to inform her about the bill and hopefully get her support. Other bills of interest to us that made it through the Appropriations Committee and are now headed to their respective floors are SB 68 by Senator Josh Becker, which is the bill for removing barriers to electrification. Some items in that bill were struck. The items that talked about how quickly utilities need to respond to service requests was taken out of the bill. SB 67 did not get through its initial committee, and that's moving to a 2-year bill. But other bills that did pass are SB 771 by Becker, which exempts from sales tax the purchase of a new or used plug-in hybrid or zero-emission vehicle by a low-income buyer who participates in the Clean Cars for All program. AB 525, which is to have the Energy Commission develop a strategic plan for offshore wind by the end of 2022. AB 843, which is the program to allow CCAs to participate in the biomat program. And AB 1139, which is a bill on net energy metering charges. Bills that did not get out of appropriations and therefore aren't moving forward include SB 617, Senator Wiener's bill, which a number of you provided input to us, and that one expedites approval of rooftop solar. Many of you had concerns about that. That bill is not moving forward. And AB 427, which provides capacity value for behind the meter hybrids and storage. That bill also is not moving forward. Let's see, what's next?
And Jeff's got his hand up, so let me just see if there's any questions for you, because you've covered a fair amount of ground.
Okay.
I was just curious, did Cal CCA take any position on AB 1139?
No, Cal CCA has not taken a position on that.
Okay.
at this
I was concerned about that because I had my concerns about it, but I didn't realize it until too late. So I was just curious if anybody else was having any concerns.
Yeah, a number of you, a few of you have told us that your jurisdiction is against this bill, but we've not yet taken a position on that.
Okay, if anybody else has a question for Jan over the landscape that she's covered so far, which is quite a bit, now would be a good time. You don't have to wait till the end. I don't see any hands up, Jan.
Okay, so just a couple more things to report on the REACH codes. I had a status report in my written report that I sent out to you, and wanted to congratulate Daly City for adopting REACH codes at their council meeting on May 10th. Yay, they followed the PCE model for new construction. And congratulations to South San Francisco, who had their first reading of the REACH codes last night, and it was approved. Wow. So there's now 12 member agencies that have adopted some form of REACH codes, with South San Francisco in process, and hopefully to become the 13th jurisdiction in PCE's area. So thank you. And then the last item I wanted to note was that in the written report that I sent to you, I've been including graphs on the impact of COVID-19 on our load. I will include that for June, but then going forward, I will not include that unless someone really wants that, because we're getting back to we're entering our post-COVID times. So, so that's it. Happy to answer any other questions that people might have.
I have a question.
Go, Rick.
Thank you. Jan, a couple of slides back, it was one of the PUC slides. It spoke about DAC, GT, and CSGT, and the bottom item shown there was talked about producing a small amount of solar generation through the use of a partner. Are we looking for partners to work with us on that?
Yes.
Okay, I have one in mind. I think I'll try to make a connection.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be putting out the solicitation documents. Probably it has to go to the PUC. We're asking for them to approve our proposed solicitation materials within 30 days. And then we will issue the RFP. So to find a solar developer to build these projects. So we probably will not be issuing that until maybe August sometime at the earliest, if things move at this pace they're supposed to. But if there are project sponsors that we know of, that would be great, because we can pass those on to the companies that might be interested in bidding on this.
Yeah, can I call and talk with you about this tomorrow?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm taking tomorrow off, but happy to talk to you on Monday.
Okay, good. I'll talk on Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Monday's Memorial Day.
Okay,
maybe
Tuesday.
Okay, yeah, have a Tuesday.
I work every day.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a little bit of time, but that's great, Rick.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay. And there's, I have the last slide here that just shows the upcoming meetings for PCE. So we will be having Audit and Finance on June 14th at 8:30, Executive Committee June 14th at 10 a.m. Citizens Advisory Committee will be the week before, because the Thursdays come before the Mondays in June. So they will be meeting on June 10th, and then our next board meeting will be on June 24th at 6:30. So
Okay,
that's
great.
it. Thank you.
Okay, Harvey has a question, Jan.
Jan, what are the disadvantaged communities in our territory? Is it a short or a long list?
It's a relatively short list. next time I can probably come and show you the map of where the disadvantaged communities are located. It's basically South San Francisco, portions of Redwood City, and East Palo Alto.
Anything on the
And Menlo Park, Bellhaven.
Yeah, thank you.
And Los Banos.
Los Banos.
Los Banos, most definitely.
Right. Our
Most
application-
definitely. 2/3 of our kids are on free or reduced lunch.
Right. Our application does not include Los Banos at this point because the allocations were made based on our 2019 load, but we are talking very frequently with the Public Utilities Commission to ask them to accelerate the ability for us to serve Los Banos with this program as well. So hopefully we can roll it out to the Los Banos customers at the same time we're enrolling all the rest of the customers.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Anne?
Thank you, Chair. Jan, when you come up, if you are going to come back with the list, could you also look at the criteria that is used to establish those communities or neighborhoods? I'm currently looking at it more for an air pollution issue, and I'm just trying to dive into how they use it based on the fact that our housing costs, our housing properties are so high, many low-income neighborhoods may not be qualifying. And then they don't qualify for other air pollution activity or other pollution activities. So if you could find the formula, that would be lovely.
Yes, I can tell you what the formula is. The CPUC has defined an eligible DAC as census tracts that are either one, score at or above the 75th percentile in the current California EPA Cal EnviroScreen 3.0 on a statewide basis, or they are one of the census tracts that score in the highest 5% of Cal EnviroScreen's pollution burden, but they do not have an overall score.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, DAC, I think soon to be known as Communities of Concern. They're changing the name.
Okay.
Yeah, right now they're using them reversing. They go back and forth on them. Assemblyman Becker did it today earlier on a climate change call.
Thanks.
Or not Senator Becker, Assemblyman Mullen. So.
Okay, any other questions for Jan with respect to the CEO report?
I'm not going to carry neutral.
Okay, I don't see anyone's hand up. I know Tom had his hand up, but I think he took it down. Okay, let's move on. The next item on the agenda is the Citizens Advisory Committee report. And
I'm here, Rick. Can you hear me?
Great. Hi, Desiree.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Hi. Yeah, great. Thank you. I'll just take a moment of your time just to give you an update on our meeting that we had 2 weeks ago. So it was nice the committee was able to meet Mark Hirschman, and he also provided us a legislative update. So that was really our first interaction with him, and I think the committee enjoyed it very much. And we also received an update from Shana on the equity project, the DEIA process, as well as the e-bike program. Philip gave us an update on that and nicely prepped us all to help with any outreach, but it looks like the program is off and running very well. So we'll do what we can, but I'm glad to see that the program is so well received, and lots of members of the committee were very excited about this program. And I'm sure happy to see the email today from Kirsten saying that it was officially launched. And then we also spent some time signing up for our new work groups. So just a thanks again to the staff who really put down specific projects that the CAC could work on. And also thank you to you, the board, for approving last month that work plan. So last meeting, we spent some time signing up for the various work groups that we're interested in pursuing for the next few months. And that's mainly what we did at the last meeting. Are there any questions?
I don't see anyone with their hand up, but I have a question or a request, Desiree. I think it's great that you identified people from the CAC to work on different of the work projects. If you could share that, who's working on which project with Jan so that she could send it out in her weekly email, I think it's something that the board would be very interested in seeing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, we have a list of who's on which. And I should also mention for each of them, we do have one CAC member who will kind of be the lead. So that would, if any board members are interested, I think that would be the best person to contact about that particular working group.
Great. Okay. So let's get that out to the board. I think that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay. I don't see any other questions or comments. Is there any public comment at this point? I don't see anyone with their hand up, so we will move on. The next item on the agenda is regards the update to the EV charging incentive program, which came to the executive committee at our last meeting.
Actually, Rick, first appointments to the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Oh, I'm sorry. Boy, I did that a second time. Okay, you're right. Appointments to the Citizens Advisory Committee. Who is handling that, Jan?
Kirsten will be present.
Actually, I'm going to pass the baton to Director Faria.
Okay, Kirsten, you're on.
Actually, I'm going to pass the baton to Director Faria, who is going to present on behalf of the committee.
Okay, good.
Trying to get I had my agenda with my names there. Of course, I know Mr. Bearwalt, but I wanted to get Cheryl's name correct too.
You know, hands raised. I heard something.
So I wanted to get her name correct and my. Let me get my.
Tom, it's on the slide. Maybe we can see the advance.
Oh, you have it up on the slide?
Yep.
I was pulling up my agenda.
There we go. It'll be on the slide after this.
My agenda saved, and so all right. Okay, there they are. Yay! Thank you. Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm very pleased to be able to do this. Of course, Daniel Bearwalt was my student for many, many years, from elementary school through high school. He was an outstanding musician, an outstanding citizen. He's an Eagle Scout, and dedicated, highly driven. He's also studying energy at the University of California in Merced, our new beautiful university in our Merced County, which is a great addition. And so I'm very pleased to nominate him. And also, we're as well as Ms. Cheryl Oliver Schaff, and she is, as you can read there, the climate action advocate from Menlo Park. And I would like to move to nominate them to the Citizens Advisory Committee.
I second that.
Great. And you should probably note that we also have nominations for some renewed terms.
Yes. Did you want to do those separately, or you want to do them all at once? Would you like to do? I can make the motion for all at once if you'd like.
I think all at once would be good.
Okay. Well, then I'll go up to the nominations for the renewed terms, and I will amend my motion to include Diane Bailey, who is our longtime PCE champion, Menlo Spark, and Joseph Fullerton, Energy and Sustainability Manager at San Mateo Community College District. So my motion is so amended.
And I still second that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go for a vote.
Well, let's just see if anyone has a comment or question.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Before we jump into the vote, I don't see a hand up. So I will assume that we don't. And let me see if there's any public comment.
Through the chair, I think Jeff has it.
I do have a hand up from Jeff out.
Turn it over to you, Ann.
Okay. If that happens to me too, I'm just going to go off camera.
Thank you. I just wanted to take.
All right.
I just wanted to take a moment and thank the committee for the interviews and our both our returning and our new members for volunteering for the CAC.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, I think we can do a roll call vote, Leslie.
Okay, great. County of San Mateo.
Yes.
County of San Mateo. Town of Atherton.
Yes.
Belmont.
Yes.
Brisbane.
Yes.
Burlingame.
Yes.
Colma. Daly City.
Yes.
East Palo Alto.
Yes.
Foster City.
Yes.
Half Moon Bay.
Yes.
Hillsborough.
Yep.
Los Banos.
Yes.
Menlo Park.
Yes.
I'll be right there, Michaela. I'm voting on another call. If that's
Millbrae.
yes. Millbrae is yes.
Okay. Okay. Pacifica.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
My apologies.
Yes.
Big yes.
Okay, is Malcolm back? Or are we on agenda item 5?
Not quite yet. I have 2 more to call. Member Beer?
Portola Valley.
Yes.
Redwood City.
Yes.
San Bruno.
Yes.
San Carlos.
Yes.
San Mateo.
Yes.
South San Francisco.
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Now we come to the item which is to update us on the EV charging incentive program.
And this will be presented by Philip Kobernick.
Great.
Great, thank you, directors. Let's go to the next slide, please. Great, so I will be speaking today about a new rebate that uses, it's an innovative use of the California Low Carbon Fuel Standard to bring an additional incentive for our customers here that I'll be speaking about. So let's go to the next slide, please. Right, so this new rebate is part of our flagship EV charging infrastructure program, which is called EV Ready. And I provided a quick overview for folks here. This is a 4-year EV charging infrastructure program. It's our biggest investment yet on the program's side, a $16 million investment from us, from PCE, and then an additional $12 million from the California Energy Commission. Our target is to install 3,500 charge ports over that 4-year time frame. We offer free technical assistance. There's a workforce training component and a strong emphasis on cost-effective right sizing of charging equipment so we can add more and more charging stations at sites. These 2 funding pools support different elements. The state funding is mostly a workplace-based program. And then our program, as a result, provides funding where the state has not been providing funding, which is mostly a multifamily focus due to some of those program requirements. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that's important. Okay, next slide. Okay, so as you'll see here, this is the current funding for the PCE component of EV Ready, which is really mostly a retrofit project. We do allow for some new construction, but that's really mostly for apartments, multifamily apartments above code, affordable housing, and some public agencies. But you'll see that we're really focused here on multifamily housing, so charging and multifamily housing. I don't have to go through all of these in detail here, but wanted to emphasize that that is where the main focus of our program is and where we've been putting our funding as we've been scoping these projects to date. We do allow for workplace, and that is for level 1 charging, and that was done to fill in the gaps with Cali VIP because they do not provide funding for level 1 charging at workplaces. Okay, next slide. So what I'm talking about tonight, what I'll be proposing here is a new rebate, and it does utilize the California Low Carbon Fuel Standard. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what LCFS is. It's a CARB market-based program to reduce emissions from transportation fuels. It's been around for a few years now and has been extended through 2030. Basically what it boils down to is that 1 credit equals 1 metric ton of avoided GHG emissions. And these credits come from fuel-specific formulas for carbon intensity. Because PCE is providing greenhouse gas-free electricity, when used for EV charging, it generates pretty valuable credits. And those are equivalent to about 23 cents a kilowatt hour at today's prices of roughly $200 a credit. And so the plan is to use funding from these stations to provide an incentive for chargers. So let's go to the next slide, please. Great. So here's an overview of the incentive. So it's a new incentive for workplace and public EV chargers. And the reason we're doing this, where we're bringing this to for your consideration today, is because we're really looking to address a gap in funding due to the oversubscription of the Cali VIP program. So we worked with sites for a number of months to get ready to submit for Cali VIP, because that is mostly a workplace program, and it sold out in a matter of minutes. And so a lot of the sites that we were working with did not secure funding. And so what we're proposing to do is bring an additional rebate to them so that they can get the opportunity to move forward on their projects. So this is a new rebate, and it's really for workplaces and public charging stations. And what we're proposing to do is have this incentive be paid back over time through future funds that come from the low carbon fuel standard over time. So the recipient would delegate their LCFS credits to Peninsula Clean Energy on an ongoing basis, and that's how we would repay this rebate over time. And through a utilization estimate that I've done, my estimate is that our return on investment from the initial rebate, it will be about 4 to 6 years. And if the stations are really well utilized, then that would be even quicker. So here's the structure of the rebate. It's $4,500 per port, which is comparable with the Cali VIP amount. And the way we're doing that is by taking $2,000 from those existing level 1 funds and already approved funds in our program, and then adding in $2,500 of new funding, which would be paid back from future LCFS funds. And there's an asterisk here because this $2,500 would be at current LCFS prices. If prices, it is a market program, so if prices decrease over time, and then in the coming years, we may have to adjust this depending on the value of LCFS. Okay, next slide, please. So here is the overall scope and eligibility. We would make this available really on a limited basis. It's not a rebate that would be widely promoted or widely marketed. It would be more targeted and selective. We'd be looking at public agencies and other large workplaces, and really primarily targeting sites that didn't receive Cali VIP funding as the initial primary focus for this funding. And then because we are using LCFS to repay the rebate, we're looking for we have a preference for sites with high utilization. And what I mean for that is stations that are not locked behind a gate or something like that, or have otherwise restricted access. So an ideal site would be somewhere that had employee charging, but also public visitors that came to that facility. So they would also get public visitor charging, or employee charging during the day and maybe some fleet charging at night. Those would be all ideal use cases. The scope of our request is up to 50 ports per year, or 150 total over 3 years. So a relatively small amount of our overall program. And so that translates to $125,000 per year, or $375,000 over 3 years. And next slide, please. And here again is an overview of the request. This is part of our EV Ready program, bringing a new incentive for level 2 charging for workplaces and public agencies and other types of public charging. The request before you tonight is for approval of this additional EV incentive, and the amount is up to $375,000 over 3 years, which represents up to 150 new ports. And because we are planning to use LCFS funding and a combination of our existing already approved funding, the action is expected to be cost neutral to our operations over time. And happy to take questions.
Great. Thank you, Philip. Does anyone have a question? I don't see any hands up. Is there any public comment on this matter? Okay, not seeing any. If anyone on the board has either a question or a comment, now is a good time. Jeff.
Having leased a plug-in hybrid on April 1st and now basically sort of navigating the frustrations of finding public charge ports for these, I'm excited to see that we're getting uptake of the charging stations in general, and we approved this, in my opinion, enthusiastically at the executive committee meeting. So I'll be happy to support it.
Great. Okay, thank you. Laura?
Thank you, Chair DeGolia. I want to also lend my support for this initiative. I think it's hugely important that we help to continue to build out the infrastructure for electric vehicles, make it easier for people to own and operate them, and I'm very much in support of this. So thank you so much for bringing it forward.
Great, thank you. John Carville.
Yes, thanks for bringing the program forward. I know Woodside, we're in the process of installing 4 charging ports, but we're also leaving capacity for future ports. So would our town be an applicant for this type of program?
Yes.
Or qualify for this type of program?
Yes. Public level 2 stations, particularly public agencies, would be a welcome in our EV Ready program. Absolutely.
Great. I think it's a great, great program as you described it.
Great. Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I don't see any. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved, Hale, Redwood City.
Second, Bonilla.
Okay, I have a motion by Giselle Hale, Redwood City, and a second by Rick Bonilla, San Mateo. Will we please do a roll?
Okay. Go for a roll call vote. Can I have County of San Mateo?
Yes.
County of San Mateo. Atherton.
Yes.
Belmont.
Yes.
Brisbane.
Yes.
Burlingame.
Yes.
Colma. Daly City.
Yes.
East Palo Alto.
Yes.
Foster City.
Yes.
Half Moon Bay.
Yes.
Hillsboro. Los Banos.
Yes.
Menlo Park.
Yes.
Millbrae.
Yes.
Millbrae?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Pacifica.
Yes.
Portola Valley.
Yes.
Redwood City.
Yes.
San Bruno.
Yes.
San Carlos.
Yes.
San Mateo.
Yes.
South San Francisco.
Yes.
Woodside.
Yes.
Great. And the motion passes.
Great. Thank you, directors.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Philip. So the next item on the agenda, if I'm not skipping another item, is the draft budget for 21-22.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So let me just first review where we are from a schedule standpoint. On May 10th, we reviewed the initial draft with the Audit and Finance Committee and got their tacit approval and endorsement. We also on the same day reviewed the initial draft with the Executive Committee. That's both of that draft is the same one we're reviewing here this evening. And that's the next on the agenda for this evening, or next on the schedule. Then June 14th, we would review a revised draft with any potential changes that were recommended by either of those committees, which so far is none, and this board, and then incorporate those into that June 14th, and then run that revised draft if there are any revisions by the Audit and Finance Committee, and get a recommendation hopefully for approval at the full board that would consider for approval on June 24th. Just to give you a summary of the major assumptions that are in our budget, we have assumed PG&E generation rates on October 1 going up by 4%, and on January 1, 2022 increased by 1%. I will talk a little bit more about that in a second. We've assumed that PCIA has, based upon input from our third-party consultants and forecast partners, that the PCIA has peaked and therefore would drop by 2% in January 1, 2022. We have assumed that our load, which is the amount of electricity we serve to our customers, will increase by 4.3% over fiscal year 21, which ends on June 30th. And that, just to refresh your memory, includes 3 months of Los Banos, since we're assuming Los Banos will come online in April, on April 1. And we've assumed energy prices increased fairly substantially over our FY21 forecast. Energy prices have actually been fairly low lately, but there's a projection that for various reasons, I think climate and economy, that there's a projection that they'll increase by 11% next year. So we have built that into our model as well. This is a full year picture, so let me walk you through the columns. The left two columns are fiscal year 2021, which is the one we're in now. An approved budget is and if you look about 3/4 of the way down, the change in that position, it was projected or budgeted to be negative 8.5 million. Our projection at this point is that we will be negative 4.5 million, so not as bad as we had budgeted, or better than our budget. That is largely contributed to higher revenues on the top line, but our expenses are above plan as well, but our revenues are higher, and I'm happy to go into it a little more detail, but I've talked about that at prior meetings. The column with the red arrow intended to direct your attention is the proposed budget. Again, we're not asking for approval tonight. This is a draft just for FYI for comments. We are projecting revenues to drop from our current fiscal full year. That's largely related to a reduction in PG&E rates. And as you know, we tie our rates to PG&E's rates, as well as an increase in the PCIA, which happened on January 1 fairly substantially. And our projected, at this point, change in that position is negative 18 million for the coming year. That would yield a days cash on hand per our policy of 250 days, still well above our policy of 180 days. This is a substantial reduction in revenues for the year. Of $10 million from the forecast of this current year. As I mentioned in a couple of meetings, the forecasts And expectations are literally all over the map and hard to keep track of. Just yesterday, we received an indication of a revised forecast from one of our trusted forecasters, and if those forecasts came to pass, revenues next year would if everything else was the same, revenues, and we rolled those forecasts into this one, revenues would be somewhere between $4 and $16 million higher. We're not factoring that in yet. I'm not sure we will. We may take a conservative approach, but it's also, these slides were prepared even before we got those, and it wouldn't surprise me if we got a different forecast next week, as I've said before. Let me just go through the rest and then I'll take questions. So on revenues, this is just a more detail about the revenues of current year forecast versus of 232 million versus 222 million next year. We're expecting less residential revenue and less commercial revenue on the demand side, as demand rates have changed significantly, and those are the two major pieces. But and residential revenue was substantially higher this year than we had expected as a result of COVID-19 and work from home and some other factors about rates changes that PG&E made in the middle of the year. Our load is expected to be 4% higher next year, even though revenues are expected to be 4.4% lower than FY21. This is a picture of cost of energy, which is the most significant expense we have. Roughly 90% of our expenses are energy costs. They're basically flat from year to year from the current forecast through next year. Some things are higher, some things are lower. And I'm happy to walk through some things, or at least it'll be posted on the website if you want to look at it in more detail or follow up with questions. RECs and GHG expenses are expected to be lower. That's largely because of increasing PPAs and renewable sources that we've continued to contract for. In terms of the next 5-year view, PG&E generation rates are, as I mentioned, are expected to go up by 1%. The following year, they're expected to drop again, and then basically up or down 1% over the next few years. PCIA is expected to improve in our model, decreasing 2%, I mentioned already, and then 4.5%, and then 16%, and then 23%. And we've assumed zero change in January 2025. But if all of those happen, that would be a substantial change and resulting in significantly positive net position in the out years, which I'll show you in a second. We've assumed in our load that, as I mentioned, FY21-22 is an increase of 4.4%, but includes Los Banos. And then we've assumed increasing as the economy improves, an increase of 4.8% per year in FY22 and 23, and then small increases thereafter. Energy prices, based upon a third party, also another third parties that we contract with to provide forecasts for us, as I mentioned, are expected to increase 11% this coming year, and then fairly substantial increases each of the years thereafter for the next 4 years as well, through 2026. So you'll see some substantial increases in costs over the next few years as we look out, although revenues are mitigating, expected increases in revenues are mitigating some of that negative. So this, although it's a lot of numbers on the page, this is a picture of that full 5-year plan. Again, the column with the red arrow shows a loss of $18 million Similar loss in the year after that. We would still be suffering from the effects of the significant PCIA change that is amortized over a 3-year period. And then it starts to mitigate, and only half of a year of that amortization in the 23-24 year. And then, as I mentioned, PCIA is expected to improve or decline, and therefore improvement for us. And we're looking at positive net position in the out years. Clearly, all of the 2, 3, 4 years out are our best guess at what we believe by pulling together a series of professional forecasts. But they're, like any forecast, there's many things that will change and most things will be wrong. Hopefully, they're not wrong in total. I also want to point out the days cash on hand projection is projected at this point in the draft budget to be 250 at the end of June 2022, so roughly 13 months from now, and then is expected to drop for the next couple of years before starting to head up again. If all of these forecasts and all of the many assumptions hold up, then in this case, the days cash on hand, the low point would be just over 200, still well above our policy of 180 days, but getting closer to that 180-day level. I will stop there and take questions.
If anybody has a question, now is the time to raise your hand. I don't see any questions, and if anyone from the public has a question or a comment, now would be a fair time to raise that. Okay, I don't see any, Andy.
No complaints from me.
And was that the complete presentation, or did you have more to follow?
The complete presentation.
Okay, great.
I did provide, as you know, more detail to the Audit and Finance Committee and to the Executive Committee. That detail is posted on the website for those meetings. So if anyone wanted more detail about the individual line items, they could go look and feel free to reach out to me. But I didn't. I thought it was we thought it was a little bit much more detail than was necessary at this board meeting.
Right. Okay. Well, I will repeat for the board the comment that I made at the Executive Committee, which is that basically this draft budget shows a good deal of swing that is 100% dependent on completely unreliable projections, but they're the best we have. And I think that it's a very well done budget. I know that the finance staff has worked hard at it. And I'm not sure that all of you have seen it, but certainly the Budget and Finance Committee has seen great swings in these projections over the last few months. And I know it's been extremely frustrating to Andy. And I just think we need to be aware that there's a great deal of unsettled turf here. The good news is that the projections never go below 200 days cash on hand, which means that notwithstanding these changes, we remain in quite comfortable economic situation. And that's because we've entered this with a very conservative fiscal policy that we built before we even launched our programs. So I thank you for all the hard work, Andy. And I know that your staff has done that behind you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Rick, I'd like to add
Please.
that I like to refer to our budget process as something akin to a roller coaster. So I see PG&E generation go up and go back down, PCI rates go down and go back up. And certainly the amount of variability is made more comforting to me by Andy's firm hand, his experience, his very credible way of explaining our position where we are today, and the fact that I know that our forecasts are, they don't exactly all agree with each other, let's put it that way. I do feel comfortable that we're well established. We have good experience in managing our load and or at least understanding what it is, and that makes a difference. So thank you very much, Andy, and whoever's helping with this, because I feel encouraged. Thank you.
Okay, John Carville.
Thanks, Andy, for your presentation. And as you had noted that you get forecasts which change constantly, nature of forecasts. From a sensitivity analysis, risks, opportunities, I presume through your process you've identified where you could mitigate the risk if rates came in differently or demand came in differently. High-level thoughts on how you address that in the process?
From a, the rates, well, the long-term rates, the near-term rates that we're dependent on, I don't think have any more downside. And based upon what we've heard recently, they may have some upside, but I'm not sure how. I don't have a high level confidence that the upside is really going to be there. So I'm not sure I'd recommend planning for the upside on the revenue side. On the cost side, I think we've been fairly conservative in our assumptions. And what we have is a practice and policy to, I'll use a term that some people may not understand what we do, but we do hedge a good deal of our load, and we hedge 100% of our load within 6 months, and I don't remember the exact figures, but 85 or 90 in the following 6 months, which gives us, which basically is paying an insurance policy to protect the downside or protect from large increases and cost changes. We did get hit last summer with very unique weather and smoke and fire all happening at the same time in the Martian sun. That was unusual. If that happened again, I guess we could be surprised, but we feel that's a highly unusual event. And so we do, on the cost side, protect the downside. And so I think that our take at this point is that while there's always the possibility of surprises, I think that the surprises to our detriment are significantly less than our surprises that might benefit us at this point.
Great, thank you. So it seems like at least the coming year you have reasonable hedges in place, hedge being a generic term, not necessarily your financial tool. And you can adapt for outer years as they become closer in the horizon.
Correct.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff?
Thank you. I will back Andy up here and point out that, yes, the data coming in for these forecasts is wildly unstable and unpredictable. The capability that Andy and Haley and others have built into our internal forecasting is commendable and has become a really powerful tool for all of us. So thank you, Andy. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, a few things, Diablo Canyon goes offline in a couple of years. I think predictions of what will happen in response to that are all over the map. We have opportunities to hopefully maybe find some more PPAs for some combination of solar, wind, and storage that actually, I think, improve our position markedly. And as we approach our 10 years anniversary, our PCIA will drop eventually to zero. Puts us in what I think is a very strong position once we can get through these next couple of years with the PCIA collections. So thank you to staff for sort of pointing out and managing all these things, I think we're in a really good position both to understand what's happening and to weather it.
Great. And I just want to make sure that we're getting any public comment that needs to come in. I see Mark Roast has his hand up. Mark, go ahead. You're
Sure.
muted.
Thank you. Thank you. Couple things. Well, I guess one is the PCI thing. Oh yeah, two things. So one is that I just read that our fire conditions are very, very severe going into this summer, drier than at any time since like 1995 or something like that. And so that's one issue. On the other hand, the fiscal year 22-23 looks like when we could probably be in volume production of batteries and the year after volume production of solar thin film. And so when the nuclear plant goes down, you know, when all these fossil and nuclear plants get shut down, then probably the biggest issue is the peaks. And so battery storage at $100 a kilowatt hour or less, capacity, purchasing the battery should be available in tens of gigawatt hour quantities. That's our plan.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Carlos.
Yes, I don't want to steal any of the finance committee members' thunder because I know I'm one of those members, and our chair is certainly here. But I do want to point out that it's been the policy of the board and certainly of the executive committee and the finance committee to make sure that we do have a strong cash reserve. And the days cash on hand, if you look in this particular budget summary and 5-year plan, really does indicate that we have some capacity to withstand some significant perturbations. Granted, it's not going to last forever, but we have a 180-day floor. We're clearly well above that in all of these upcoming years. So it gives us some ability to absorb, some significant market changes. Again, PCIA is something we have to get under control, and we'll see how that happens. But I just want to give hands off a round of applause to both the board, the executive committee, and those on the finance committee, other than myself, who have really spent some time thinking about how do we build up those cash reserves, how do we not be profligate, at least initially in our operations, to make sure we can weather storms in an industry that we're really new to. And I think that we've done a tremendous job. So we're by no means out of the woods, but at this point, it is somewhat of a relief to see that we indeed can have a significant number of our days cash on hand is significantly higher than that 180 days that we kind of set as the goal. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Carlos. Anybody else? Any other comments or questions for Andy? I don't see any other hands, so I will assume that there are no other comments. And that brings us to board member reports. Well, I skipped the chair report at the very beginning, so I'll make this a board member report. As you all know, we are in the midst of our annual review of our CEO, and everyone on the board has received a email from Patricia Tomlinson with a Survey Monkey set of questions, and executive committee members have received a few additional questions. And I just want to prod anyone who hasn't responded to please respond. Make some time in the next day or two. We need to get those responses in this weekend so that Patricia can analyze them and we can move forward with this review in a timely manner and bring it back to the board next month, which is the plan. The fiscal year ends after the next board meeting, so I'd really like to be able to address this next month, but we need your responses to that Survey Monkey, and it's been designed as a Survey Monkey, so it will be extremely efficient for you to respond to. So please do so. If anybody else has a board member report, please speak up or raise your hand. Okay, I don't see anyone, so that is the end of the meeting. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next month.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Take care.
Thank
you.
Thank you,
Take care.
everyone. Have a great evening.
Yep. Take care.
Bye all.